Hello and welcome to the first ever Bad Men podcast, brought to you by the fine folks of IGNBA. I am your host, Dominic, and I'm joined by Mark
Hi, it's finally
and
happening.
Anthony.
How's it going, Dom?
Good, and John.
How is everyone?
Doing good.
And we figured for our first run through, we just talk a little bit about what's happening in the NBA right now, what's topical, what's fun, and just whatever the hell we think would be interesting. And right now, it's pretty much the Cavs firing Chris Grant, who I guess was sort of always on the chopping block. He was never not going to be fired. It was a matter of when, regardless of the hand he was dealt, taking over after LeBron left in a draft where they had no picks. That kind of doesn't matter when you do nothing with what you do end up having afterwards.
Yeah, I mean they've had plenty of picks. It's just I don't know. The Cavs seem to be cursed with something because Ferry, terrible. Chris Grant, obviously, he had Kyrie, the rest of the pick. He had one good pick and seemingly endless draft picks. And I'm not one to really harp on the Anthony Bennett one so much, just because, as shocked as I was that he did get selected, Tristan Thompson, he's not, he's not somebody that I would. I thought Anthony Bennett. Yeah, I thought Anthony Bennett had a shot to be one of the top players in that draft. He had a ton of talent and untapped, and I don't know, they seem to be wanting to make a playoff push at the beginning of the season. The talks died down after 2 games, but see,
yeah, I think one thing that's really telling is the fact that a veteran like Luol Deng would be traded to Cleveland, and within the first week or two, he's talking about just how poorly ran the organization is. I think that speaks just as loudly as the misfires for the draft picks that they had. You have players that are threatening to refuse to go back into the game after halftime, players throwing their jerseys, players getting kicked out of practice, but they're not getting their minutes cut. So somebody can get kicked out of practice and still play 30, 32 minutes just like normal. I think really that speaks to just how poorly ran it was. So the fact that Chris Grant got fired is really just expected more than anything. And to be honest, I feel like it's really a top to bottom, from the owner to the GM, to the fact that they re-signed Mike Brown, down to the fact that none of the players, to the fact that there's no chemistry on the team. None of the players fit. It's really a bad situation all around. So.
Yeah, I was thinking that Luol Deng trade would actually bring them together, because he's a veteran presence, could maybe snap these the Dion Waiters kind of knuckleheads out of it, but yeah, it's not seeming to pay off much.
It's not seeming to work, and what's really interesting, I didn't really like the trade because I felt like he would be that presence that could turn around, but I felt like he wouldn't be able to. They wouldn't re-sign him. Either they were going to get better, maybe make a playoff push in a very weak Eastern Conference.
Not hard to do, yeah.
And then, leave to somewhere to greener pastures, or something of that light. I felt like they could have kept Bynum, kept sucking. It didn't end up with a top 5 pick. It turns out it doesn't even matter, because
it does. You know what? I was thinking even just those couple of months of some veteran presence. I thought that would do the team wonders, because you see even Hedo Turkoglu on the Clippers, as terrible as the guy. He actually hasn't been playing too awfully, but he's another one of those veteran presence kind of guys who it's another kind of more relatable coach on the bench, you know. And then I mean, Dane gets a ton of playing time. I thought that it would rub off well on the players.
Yeah, but I think the problem's been brewing for too long. Like the Clippers, like at least they've had some success. The they've been doing stuff. They get Rivers, who's a great coach, a good locker room guy.
Yeah.
You look at the Cavaliers, Mike Brown, he's not respected. He's not respected in this league. You can tell by the players. Like when you have rookies and sophomores and juniors and whatnot showing just complete utter disrespect to your coach, like it says a lot about you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I feel like Mike Brown is a fine, I think he's a smart man. I think
he knows basketball, but he's just not a really man.
Right.
And
yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like Doc Rivers, is this guy a basketball savant? I mean, like, is this guy like I see his schemes and stuff, and I watch a lot of Clippers games. But like, is this guy really? I mean, I hear a lot of talk of him being like the second best coach in the league, and I'm not so convinced. But he's a top tier motivator.
I think the difference between Doc Rivers and somebody like Mike Brown is that Doc Rivers may not be this great strategist like Greg Popovich or something like that,
right.
He knows the strengths of his players, and that's how the team plays.
Mm-hmm.
You bring in Mike Brown, and his strategy is, we got LeBron James, he's going to do whatever he wants. We got Kobe, Kobe's going to do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
We got Kyrie, he's going to do whatever he wants, but he's also the only player on the court who can score and facilitate, and he's not a leader. He's not used to that sort of grind, and he's not surrounded by, any real veteran presence. Right. I mean, they brought in.
That's really the worst thing about it is unlike the first go around that he had with Cleveland, where you have LeBron James, who was still young, but he was such a generational talent that he can lead the Cavs, or somebody like Kobe, even though that experiment failed. These are veteran guys who are playing around with other veterans. The Cavaliers are in disarray because he doesn't have any real leadership in his coaching. And when you have a really young team without a veteran presence that was there from day one, what do you have? You just have a mess. I mean, you don't have any real structure, and that's why players in their first and second year are throwing fits and making threats and all of this, getting in the fight, all of this just disarray because there's nothing at the top. There's no accountability. There's nobody that's a veteran presence. And bringing in somebody like Luol Deng would be nice and all, but the damage has been done. Luol Deng is looking at Cleveland like, what did I get myself into? He's not
They remind me of the Wizards, like with Blatch and Nick Young, where it was just a mess. Like you had to clear the house.
I don't think it's quite that bad. Yeah, but yeah, I can see that.
I think it's getting that bad because right now their two best players are Kyrie Irving and Dion Waiters, who are both headstrong assholes. It seems.
I would put Tristan Thompson over Dion Waiters, but
Dion Waiters doesn't see it that way.
No, Dion Waiters is the best player in the league according to Dion Waiters.
Yeah, put Dion Waiters on the Heat, he'd still think that way.
See, I think part of the problem with their roster is that it's really redundant. Mm-hmm. Kyrie Irving needs the ball, but Dion Waiters needs the ball. Somebody like Tristan Thompson is under the basket and rebounds. Anderson Varejao under the basket. It's a really poorly constructed, and they have no real bench. They were supposed to have one when you look at Anthony Bennett, but he's been just awful. And Jarrett Jack
had his own true Hollywood story. He got to the ugly music.
And then you have Jarrett Jack, who was great in his final year as a Warrior, but he needs the ball as well. And when you have just such poor construction of the team, what are you going to do? And you don't have anybody, you don't have a coach that can either fit or lead. So I think you have to blow it up, actually. And it's going to suck for Kyrie Irving, who's going to have to look at potentially 4 or 5 more years, assuming that he resigns.
I take the qualifying offer if I was Kyrie Irving.
I'm waiting for that.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for that first big star to take a qualifying offer.
I agree wholeheartedly. I want somebody to do it already.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
take it because the qualifying offer for Kyrie would be what, like 8 mil, 7 mil. I'm not sure.
Right.
I'd take it for 1 year rather than spend the next 5 years of my career in Cleveland. I'd lose the money now.
Exactly, and that begs the question: would you take a max offer when you're playing for somebody like Milwaukee or Cleveland versus going and taking a little bit less to be able to play for a team that can actually win? You know what I mean?
Or this in the I mean, like, you know, who wants to? I mean, no offense to anyone who lives in Cleveland, but not the most desirable place.
Joakim Noah said it best.
Yeah, Joakim Noah and The Rock, you know, both two very wise men. Yeah, I mean, it's hard when you're in a spot like that isn't particularly known for, you know, I mean, like, you want to go to LA.
Anything?
Yeah, for I don't want to, you know, don't hate me, people.
They have the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They have the Rock and Roll.
Okay, that's one thing. Also, like, we keep harping on Mike Brown, who I'm not a fan of. I don't think anyone is a fan of Mike Brown. But, like, all right, so Greg Popovich coaches this team. How many wins?
Well,
I'd put them top 5. If Greg Popovich had him from the start, I would put them top 5 in the East.
If Greg Popovich coaches this team, but I mean, he's I mean, they wouldn't be in the. If he took over the team today, had them through training camp and all that, next year, I mean, like, the pieces just don't fit, and that's a product of the GMing but I'm not even, I mean, because, like, Danny Ferry was so bad also.
Is that just the curse of Cleveland, though? Because Danny Ferry goes to the Atlanta Hawks, and all of a sudden he's a brilliant general manager.
He took advantage of Billy King. That doesn't count.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he got rid of arguably the most untradeable contract at the time. So,
Billy King. Yeah, does Dan Gilbert have how much of a hand does he have in this mess?
I say he has a large hand. I mean,
you know, yeah, really. I mean, like, and I was seeing all this talk about LeBron going back to the Cavs and all this speculation. Like, after the Comic Sans letter, like, are you really gonna want to come back to that organization?
I mean, he wasn't coming back to the organization regardless because.
But there was a lot of talk about it, you know. And
there was a lot of talk about it, but there's nothing that would suggest that coming back to Cleveland would be better than staying in Miami.
We'll come to the Clippers.
If LeBron James had spent the first however many years of his career with the Milwaukee Bucks, not his hometown team, and then left, nobody would ever been talking about him going back to the Bucks. People talked about him going back to Cleveland because he's from Akron. Yeah. And he still has to say, I love Cleveland, because that's pretty much where he came from. Right. It's a story because it's convenient. It's not a story because it was ever going to happen.
Because it's illogical for him to come back to Cleveland because there's nothing there. And even when this was a real story, there was really not much incentive besides the fact that Kyrie Irving is there for him to come back to Cleveland, and the fact that he lived around that area. So
didn't they base some of their draft decisions? Well, I mean, like, I don't know if they did or not, but didn't it sort of feel sometimes like they wouldn't take a small forward, maybe, you know, with the hint of a certain someone maybe coming back? Like Harrison Barnes felt like a pretty natural pick to me. In what, like 2012? I think it was 2012.
I think that. That's a theory. I think it's possible that that's what they could have been thinking. Because there were times where, you know, even somebody like Otto Porter out of this year's class could have been thought about. I understand that right now he's, you know, not doing much of anything, but at the time,
it's most of the draft.
Yeah, I like Porter. Like, at the time of the draft. Right now, I don't know what happened with him, but
yeah.
I mean,
he seemed like a 5'2" kind of player.
Porter was considered a sure thing. Like this, all of these guys who are so low risk. I'm not sure what's going on here.
I mean, you have Pero Antic representing the rookies in the rookie sophomore game.
Yeah, guy probably fathered some of them.
I have something that's kind of an unpopular opinion, but I'm going to throw it out there because I think it's something that needs to be said. We were talking about Kyrie Irving getting, taking the qualifying offer or maybe getting a max offer from somewhere. At this point, if you're a non-Cavaliers team, are you throwing a max offer at Kyrie Irving? And before you say anything, just hear me out. I mean, he's a guy who's guaranteed to miss time every year. He's been hurt since high school. His play has regressed each year, and now we're just getting more and more stuff about him being kind of a dick in the locker room. And I mean, how much of that do you say it's a bad atmosphere against how much of that is Kyrie Irving hurting the atmosphere? I just don't. I think he's a risky player at this point.
I would agree with you, but I don't see many point guards out there, like as talented as they may be, as talented as each individual point guard may be, that I'm willing to hand a max contract out to. Because I don't know. I mean, like especially if they're ball dominant. I know that this is sort of an unpopular opinion. I'm not big into the ball dominant point guard, regardless of how talented they are, and I think that it kind of stifles the team. And
are you saying Chris Paul?
I don't want to say Chris. I mean, like that's my team. Like I love Chris Paul, and obviously I love Blake. So, but it's a little bit hard because like you see him kind of on the ball, the air out of the ball, and it like he sort. I mean, he's a super talented player. One of the top, I'd say probably top 3 as far as talent goes. But if we're talking about like building a championship team, he and Kevin Love, Kevin Love is another guy who has all the talent in the world. I think it would be difficult to build a team that could contend for a championship around either of those two players.
I'll get to Kevin Love a little bit.
We'll get to Kevin. Yeah.
But as far as Kyrie, I'll play devil's advocate. I really think that it's largely because of the atmosphere that he's around. I mean, there is nothing that compliments him. Like the guards that he's working with is completely redundant, and they're far less talented. The player, like the big men that they have, are either redundant or they're awful. We weren't hearing one thing about the fact that he's this or he's that in the locker room. His first 2 seasons,
right.
when he was just, when people were wondering, is he a superstar? Can he elevate himself to superstar status? Now, because this team is in such disarray and his players regress, now we're starting to hear reports about, well, he's not getting along. Him and Dion are feuding at each other. If he was on a different team, I honestly believe that he would be every bit of the player that he was his second year when he came in and was a prolific scorer, and he did it efficiently. Honestly, I think that if I were to choose on whether or not I give him a max contract, I would seriously consider it. I think that one of the big issues was we put him on such a pedestal too early, despite his flaws. I mean, he does have defense issues. That's pretty apparent. He is very ball dominant. But it's only.
But he can play off the ball too. I mean, like he's got a jump shot. And I think he showed more in his like college days when he's able to play off the ball, and he has the ability to be a distributor. Who's he going to distribute to?
He has the ability, but he's not showing that he wants to.
Well, but like I mean, you got Dion Waiters to your left, you got Tristan Thompson to your right, you got Anthony Bennett like lugging behind you because he's out of shape. But like, so what are you going to do? What are you going to do with that? So, and I agree with you. Like, it's a shitty situation. And the guy's like, what? He's 22?
Yeah, he's 22.
I mean, you know, and losing takes a toll, especially like when you're an elite player and you're used to being on great teams.
But I guess that's the point I'm making when you're talking about a max contract. I mean, I'm not saying Irving's a bad player or anything. I mean, he's great. He's, you know, a top young point guard in the league. It's just, you know, it's a guy who, if you're gonna talk about a max contract, you're talking about building around a player. And he's young, I get it, but it's just not something you like to see, a player who's taking themselves out of games because they're losing, whose play is noticeably slipping because they're losing. I mean, I want to see that guy be the positive energy in the locker room, and I hate being so cliche, but you know, you want him to be a leader. Like, you look at him as like James Harden, who took a team on his back last year after being in the shadow of better players. And
Kyrie Irving also plays in Cleveland, so that's a little different than Houston.
That's a good point.
Would you have given Kyrie Irving a max contract last year?
I probably would have still hesitated because the injuries scare me.
I wouldn't let this year. I mean, like, if you wouldn't have given it to him last year, I wouldn't have given it to him last year, and I wouldn't give it to him now. Just I don't know. I'm not his biggest fan.
Okay.
Sorry, Dab, but.
I would honestly. I think I would have last year because at the time he was what 21, 22.
Yeah.
Coming out, you know.
I just look at he's 21 now. He turns 22.
21 now. So he was 20 at the time, or 21, a young 21 at the time, coming off a just absolutely dominant offensive year, and there's really no reason to believe that he would have regressed at all, you know, at the end of last year. I would absolutely have given to him.
I would have given to him. I drank the Kyrie Irving Kool-Aid. I thought he was going to be a lot better this year.
Yeah. I will say that I do think that John Wall has been a better player for this year and last year, but I understand it's an unpopular opinion.
I mean, again, stick Kyrie on the Spurs from the beginning of his career, and I mean, okay, Tony Parker's dead, you know, so there's an opening at the point guard spot. Yeah, rest in peace, Tony. Kyrie Irving starts in one universe, and John Wall starts in another. From the beginning of their careers, who's the better player? And I think that's Kyrie.
It's not like John Wall started in a good situation. I mean, the Wizards were pretty bad.
But look at the pieces around him, and look at the kind of player that he is. He's a distributor first.
He persevered. He came through.
But Kyrie is. I mean, he's shown to be a scorer first, passer second. John Wall is lightning quick. And can get to the basket, but he's very much a distributor first, scorer second. And like, he's paired up with Bradley Beal, you know, and some other guy. I mean, he had
See, I believe that
Gortat, you know, I mean, like he was, he's not doing as well as he used to, but you know, I mean, he still has some nice pieces around him, like he's got okay players.
I think.
Yeah, but I mean, that's recent. That's not his first 3 years. He had nobody, and you didn't see him regress so heavily and whatnot. I mean, he was still distributing to bad players and getting his assists and playing great defense and scoring almost 19 points a game last year. I mean, he was only 3 points per game behind Kyrie and dishing out 3 more assists a game.
Right. See, and one of the things was he was out for half the season last year. He came back and made the Wizards go 500 from the time he came back onto the end.
Yeah, they did.
And while that may not sound like a great big feat for the team that team was really.
That is big.
And now you look at how he can be able to, you know, complement the players that he has around him now. I mean, he and Bradley Beal, I think they got good potential going forward. Just how they can complement each other, the way that he can be able to go off ball and work off of John Wall. And partly why I think that Kyrie is in a bad situation, because he doesn't have that. He doesn't have somebody that he can really play off of. When he first came out of Duke, people were actually wondering, is he, people were wondering if he was a pass first point guard. I mean, as crazy as that sounds, people were actually thinking, he's more of a Chris Paul type, I guess.
I thought he was more of a distributor in college, from what I saw.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it has it in him, more or less. It's just there's nothing really that really complements it. And you look at it this year, his assist rate went up, his turnover rate went down. It's just that his shooting, his efficiency is gone way down. It's gone from being, quality to being mediocre. And that's really what we're looking at. But if he maintained his efficiency, or if he was at least in the area of what he was prior to this season, we wouldn't be looking at Kyrie as a problem at all. There probably wouldn't even be reports saying that he was fighting with this or that, or we would villainize Dion Waiters, if anything. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really, going back to the question, I really think that it's largely a part of the product around Kyrie Irving, because for as much as I like John Wall, I am big on John Wall. He, as of this year, just speaking this year, the players that he has around him complement each other far better than the trash that Chris Grant constructed together with him and Waiters, Thompson, etc., Bennett, etc. So
yeah,
it's going to be interesting going forward what Cleveland does, because they're going to have to clean house in some form or fashion.
I mean, Kyrie's the only piece that I would really hold on to. Kyrie is my only untouchable, and that's not a good position to be in.
Yeah, I mean, it's just they're gonna have to kill it, because there's not much potential in that team.
Mm-hmm.
It's too redundant.
How much do you get back though for Waiters, for Thompson, for Bennett?
Yeah, probably not much.
Yeah, you're not gonna get a whole lot, but it's better just to kind of work off of, more or less what you can get. They're in a really terrible situation. They're fine financially, they're fine, but just where they go from here is a really terrible situation, because Luol Deng is leaving. That's not, there's no question that he's leaving. And now you're stuck with largely the same team that doesn't have really much potential at all to go any further, and you're not really going to attract a lot of free agents with the team being in disarray, and Cleveland's not the most attractive destination. So they're really in a really poor situation.
It won't happen, but they should trade Deng.
Yeah, that's what I was just
going to
trade
Deng.
Yeah.
You'll probably get a second-round pick, but just take what you can. He's not staying. There's no chance.
Are you allowed to trade someone that quickly?
Yeah, but it can't be in a package deal, so it'd have to be like a one-for-one type of trade.
Okay, I got you. All right, do you guys think that?
So, new Cleveland general manager, if you're listening, trade Luol Deng.
Yeah. Whoever the interim general manager is.
Maybe not for a second-round pick, but
take what you can. Leave.
Do you guys think that Kyrie Irving was a deserving starting guard for the All-Star game?
No, it absolutely.
If you think the All-Star game is to reward the best starting point guard this year, it should have been Kyle Lowry, because he's been the best.
Make the team. Yeah.
Yeah. If it's supposed to be the best point guard, period, I think it probably should have been John Wall.
Okay.
So yeah, it shouldn't have been Kyrie.
It always brings up the debate. Like, they always say it's a game for the fan, but you can't use the term All-Star to rank players and say it's a game for the fan.
I don't feel like people really do. I mean, like Kobe Bryant. And Kobe Bryant got voted in this year, which I understand, but like Tracy McGrady was still getting voted in like 2 years after he fell off.
We always use it as an accolade.
His,
so and so is an 8-time All-Star. You can't do that and have.
Yeah, that's true.
I think this is the first year since like 1974 that Yao Ming isn't starting.
Really?
And I'm pretty sure he's actually dead.
If they put him on the ballot, he would still be the starting center.
That like without question. I'm surprised that Jeremy Lin got a lot of votes, right?
Yeah.
I'm surprised he's not more in the fray. Any other All-Star snubs?
Lance Stevenson.
Lance Stevenson.
I don't know how Joe Johnson got in. I don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Joe Johnson got in because the Nets turned it around, and he was the best player on the team while it was happening.
Yeah, like, the Nets won 9 out of 10. Joe Johnson's doing pretty good. Let's vote for him. That's the only thing that could explain it. Because for the most part, his season's been mediocre compared to what Joe Johnson, his standard.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and how much of it was Joe? Joe Johnson. He's like a kind of a run. He's okay. He's pretty good. A great 3-point shooter. How much of that was Garnett moving the 5 spot?
I think with more of that.
Yeah.
Putting Garnett at the 5, Pierce at the 4, and then starting Livingston.
And also, they added a bunch of new pieces. Getting everybody comfortable with each other. Joe Johnson shouldn't have been in there.
Cause if you watch them play during that streak, a lot of it was off the bench. A lot of it was because Karolinko, Teletovic, and Blatch. They have great chemistry off the bench.
Yeah.
For a few of those games, it was Blatch and Teletovic leading the team in scoring, or Paul Pierce. It wasn't all Joe Johnson. Joe Johnson had like the two game-winning shots, but in between those game-winning shots, there was mediocre.
Fire.
This is what he's good for.
At the end of games? Oh my God! Yeah, that guy's sold his soul or something.
I think the biggest snub is one of the Western Conference guys. I guess it doesn't really count for Anthony Davis anymore because he was named the replacement for Kobe. But Anthony Davis, you could make an argument that he's been the second best player in the Western Conference this year.
Mm-hmm.
Scoring.
I would say that. I would say that he was. He's in. I know this is unpopular again. He's in my top 5 player list.
I'd probably take him over anybody that's not Kevin Durant or LeBron James if I'm building a team. If I'm getting one player to build a team.
If you're building a team, obviously you take Anthony Davis.
Yeah, no question.
Number 3.
Yeah,
I'm talking about for next game. If I'm playing one game must win, I'm taking LeBron, Durant, Chris Paul, Paul George, and nobody else over him.
Okay.
Personally, that's a big statement.
Yeah, personally, I'm putting it out there.
Personally, I would have Kevin Love, but
yeah, you have to build a really good team around him.
I don't necessarily think that he's that hard to build around.
Honestly, are the Timberwolves really that drowned in talent though? Like,
I feel like the Timberwolves lack. They have vital areas that are really killing them. Like they have no rim protection. They're working with a point guard that's just atrocious offensively outside of his assist making. They have no bench really that can produce a whole lot. There's not a whole lot of defense really in general. For as solid as Rubio is on the perimeter, and I think he's top of the league in steals. There's really not much of. You got Kevin Martin out there.
Rubio's probably the worst scorer in NBA history.
This team the Timberwolves have some serious flaws. For as good as Kevin Love is, he can't really make up for all of those holes. I think that the Timberwolves are a pretty good 2K team. I use them, but as far as 2K, they're great. But as far as actually going out there, the fact that the Timberwolves are even mediocre, I think they're hovering around 500. Is really a testament to Kevin Love because that team is flawed in areas that that would really kill the team. And they're in the Western Conference, so had this team been in the East, they'd probably be 5th or 6th right now.
I think they'd be 3rd.
I don't think they'd be 3rd. They wouldn't be 3rd. I mean, like, and you say, I mean, okay, Kevin Love and Pekovic are like 2 of the worst rim protectors in the league. Guess who is the top shot blocker in the NBA right now? It's Anthony Davis. So, I mean, like, just substitute that. I mean, that's, you stick Anthony Davis with Nikola Pekovic.
Peck is a beast.
Peck is I mean, that's a guy. I'm not gonna. I wouldn't want to make him angry.
Can I also add in with Anthony Davis? He has the Pelicans right around 500, and
right.
The Pelicans. I mean, Eric Gordon's been having an Eric Gordon season, but Tyreke Evans has been pretty bad. Drew Holiday has been good. He's shooting a lot better than he usually does, but Ryan Anderson has missed half the season. Al-Farouq Amino is...
Personally, with the Hornets, their team is
Pelicans,
man, come on.
Yeah.
What? You going with yeah, okay, all right. Catch up.
At least he pronounced it right.
Yeah, Jesus. Disease. All right. Yeah, what were you saying, Dom?
No, I think everything that's said about Kevin Love and his supporting cast, I mean, Anthony Davis's supporting cast is better, definitely. But Anthony Davis is a second-year player that has his team in a similar position to Kevin Love, and he's the best player on the team, and he's getting better.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I can't see... I love Kevin Love. I love watching him play, but Anthony Davis is probably as good on the boards as Kevin Love. He's a much better defender, much better shot blocker, and you know what? He doesn't have the range that Kevin Love has, but he's scoring.
I mean, he has good touch around the basket. He has good touch around the basket, and he has a good form. And his mid-range game is, I mean, I see that as being something that will seriously improve. But substitute Anthony Davis with Kevin Love, trade them for each other. I think that the Minnesota Timberwolves make the playoffs. I think that Pekovic and the Brow, I think that that'd probably be one of the best big man combos in the league.
I mean,
if not the best.
But that's really more a product of the environment around. I mean, I would absolutely agree that Anthony Davis would fit a whole lot better than Pekovic, and they would flourish because of it. But it's kind of, and likewise, Kevin Love wouldn't be in a very good situation being traded to the Pelicans.
Yeah, I mean, does that team make the playoffs?
I mean, but that team doesn't have. That team.
How much do you need? How much do you need around Kevin Love to be? I mean, he hasn't made the playoffs once in his career.
I mean, I think one he needs
center next to Kevin Love.
What's that?
You need a big time defensive center next to Kevin Love.
I think the first thing towards building with Kevin Love is having somebody that can protect the rim and somebody that can bang down low. I think somebody that can really complement him, defensively, would be a big step, and he hasn't had that.
Those guys don't grow on trees, I mean, you need I just feel like you need a really particular team around him. Same as Chris Paul, but not to get into that. But
I think you need a particular center, but you just need like a Chandler for him.
Right. I mean,
but Kevin Love's not a great low post player.
His scoring is just amazing to where I think whether or not he can get down low isn't so much of a concern because he gets to the free throw line and converts at a high rate. He can hit from there. He can hit from deep at a great rate. To where he doesn't.
But he has Pekovic next to him. I mean, not to say that he would. I mean, he'd still be exactly what he is on any team, probably. But Pekovic is one of the top post players in the league. I mean, he's dominant offensively at times.
But I think it's not as important, I guess. Like it would be much better for them to have somebody like Roy Hibbert, who's not very good as far as putting up big numbers, but somebody that could really anchor the paint. I think if they swap out Pekovic for Hibbert, that team.
Well, oh my God! I mean, Hibbert's like a top 2 center in the NBA, top 2 or 3 center in the NBA, though.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't put him that.
Who are you taking over Hibbert? I'm saying I'm thinking Dwight, Marc Gasol, and that's where it ends for me. Maybe Noah. Maybe Noah.
I mean, Cousins.
Not taking Cousins. I'm not doing it.
You wouldn't take Cousins over here?
I'm not taking Cousins. I mean, like,
his defense is terrible.
Guy's defense. I mean, he can't defend. I mean, he's one of the top offensive players, but it's like if your center can't defend, like that's so important in today's NBA. To have a big who can stretch the floor, and then the other guy has to take care of the rest.
Okay, I'm just saying that if you, and not even so much at the level of Hibbert, but somebody that could be a really good rim protector. If you get somebody like that next to Kevin Love, that team becomes exponentially better. And it's not a knock at Pekovic at all. I think he's a fine low post player and rebounder, but he's not what they need.
I mean, he's one of the worst rim protectors in the league.
I mean, and then when you have Kevin Love who doesn't rim protect either, I mean, that's a big flaw, and it's part of the reason why they're a mediocre team overall.
Yeah, and it's a huge flaw in Kevin Love's game, though. You know? I mean, I don't know. What's that?
I was gonna say, would it be accurate to? I just thought this up, and I'm proud of myself for it, so I have to share it. Would it be accurate to kind of say that Kevin Love is basically James Harden as a power forward? I mean, he's great at scoring. He's a pretty good distributor.
I can see that. I can see that.
He's a defensive zero, and you need the defense around him.
And you don't need the defense so much from the 2 spot.
Yeah, it's easier to pass
as a big man.
Shooting guard position. Shooting guard position, in my opinion, is the weakest the weakest position in all of basketball.
Yeah, unquestionably.
Yeah,
but I'm just saying, like, in terms of the type of player he is, like, if you have James Harden as your best player, you're going to need people behind him to play good defense, because not only is he bad at defense, he doesn't care about defense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's why I would take Anthony Davis over Kevin Love, because Anthony Davis gives you everything. He gives you everything you need from a player, I guess, except 3-point shooting. But, does that matter when he has a 58% true shooting percentage and he's hitting 77% of his free throws? I don't really think so.
I mean, he's not the transcendent offensive talent that Kevin Love is, but he's much more well-rounded. And we're not talking about, like, I'm not saying Kevin Love is garbage when he's obviously, I mean, he's a top-tier player. Top 10 in the league for me. I'm not ready to put him into my top 5 when you've got somebody like Anthony Davis who can do it all.
There's also more room for growth, I think, with Anthony Davis. I think Love is what he is at this point, and I don't see him improving that much defensively.
No.
Davis,
I mean, he's in his prime right now.
Davis, there's a lot, so I think I take Davis over Love.
Well, yeah, I think going forward, I would absolutely take Davis over Love, no question. I just think that Love really gets a bad rap for, one, his team not being as, as good as you would hope for with a player of Love's talent.
Mm-hmm.
He gets that rap, but, we failed to mention, the vital issues that the Timberwolves have. I guess against Anthony Davis, one of the things you kind of think about is Kevin Love is such a versatile, prolific, efficient scorer. Like he can get to the back. There's really not much that he can't do, and he does it so well. and he does it so
absolutely,
he does it efficiently that's hard to really replace. I mean, it's nothing to just throw to the side that he's a great scorer. I mean, he is a top 5 scorer. I mean,
he's
nothing
probably a
to
top. Yeah, he's probably. I mean, he's a top 5 scorer in the NBA.
And then you look at the fact that he's also a pretty good passer, and he is a monster on the glass.
He's a great passer. Ask Corey Brewer.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great passer.
I think that his versatility is really underrated as to what aspects of the game that he affects. I mean, he is so dominant with the ball in his hands. He's so dominant at getting the ball off the boards. He's dominant for a big in his passing game. That when we look at, I think the best thing about Anthony Davis is his versatility. But Kevin Love is so elite at certain vital aspects of the game that it's hard to really just ignore it and just say, well, he can play offense and defense. Now it's evident that Kevin Love is largely an offensive player, and Anthony Davis is a two-way player.
Yeah.
It's just that when you're so elite, when you're so prolific at what you do, and this is why somebody like James Harden is so highly touted, is because that aspect of scoring is such a premium, and that he does it so well that it's just hard to ignore. So,
but Anthony Davis does it really well too. Yeah, I mean, Anthony Davis is a terrific offensive player, and he's not Roy Hibbert right now, but he's one of the best defensive players in the. I mean, he's one of the best defensive bigs, even if he's not like elite quite yet. I think.
Yeah.
But I mean,
one thing I want to add is we're not saying, at least for me, saying I'm not taking Kevin Love over Anthony Davis. I mean, I'm saying I won't take I'm pulling these numbers out of my ass, so don't hold me to them. But I'm basically saying I will not take the 8th best player in the NBA over the 5th best player in the NBA.
Exactly.
It's splitting hairs.
Yeah, it's not a jab at Kevin Love. I mean, it kind of is just because like everybody is all over him, and I'm kind of, people will take it that way because they all have they're all into him. But
I mean, we were talking about a player next to Kevin Love. How about Kevin Love next to Anthony Davis? I know Anthony Davis is small for a center, but I mean that's just.
He's gotten a lot bigger since getting in the league. I mean, he's looking like he was looking pretty small in college. Yeah, but he's definitely hitting the weights.
Yeah.
And they've put him at center a lot. I think that'd probably be a pretty good combo. Although I'd probably prefer seeing. I mean, Pekovic and Anthony Davis is kind of like my dream combo. I would love to see that.
Keep all three together. Put Pekovic at small forward.
Yeah.
All about Pekovic.
And then bring Robin Lopez back onto the team. Stick him at the point.
There you go.
The other player I wanted to get to for a snub is Goran Dragic, who is kind of. I think everybody knows how good he's been, but I think it's kind of overlooked just the fact that he's been far and away the best player on the Suns. I mean, you make the argument that Bledsoe was playing just as good as him, but Bledsoe has been out for the past 25 games, and Dragic has played better since he went down. He's scoring over 20 points per game. He's shooting 50, 39, 78, which is pretty crazy, and he's kind of the only good player on the Suns, a Suns team that has won 29 games this year when their over-under for the season was, I think, 18.5. I have no idea how that guy is not on the All-Star team.
Miles Plumlee's, I mean, he's kind of came out of nowhere. I would agree with you about Goran Dragic for the All-Star. Well, it's tough with the West because it's so stacked. And you can kind of look at snubs all over, but I definitely think Dragic deserves some attention. I don't know. Yeah, West All-Star stubs though. Like all of those guys,
they're all deserving.
They're deserving, you know. And it's not like the East where you got like DeMar DeRozan. I mean, not to. I mean, he's played a lot better this year, especially since the Gay trade. But you know, I mean, his teammates right there. But yeah, Goran Dragic is great. Not sure. I mean, like I would take Bledsoe over him long term. Yeah, he's been injured, so it's I get that though.
So who do you take out over for Bledsoe? Not Bledsoe, I mean Dragic.
Dragic,
I mean, if we're saying again, this goes back to the hypothetical. Are we taking the best player this season, the guy who for half a season is the best at his position, or the player who's just better for his career? If we're looking exclusively at this season, and we're just taking out somebody of the same position, I might put him over Chris Paul because Chris Paul's missed a lot of time. I might put him over Tony Parker because
I don't think
his numbers are better than Parker.
Did Tony Parker make the All-Star game?
Yeah, he made it.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Okay. Damn. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. I totally agree there.
Just the way that Dragic has really elevated the Suns team, who we thought was going to be in the sweepstakes for Andrew Wiggins. I mean, it really is a testament to just how big of an impact he's been.
No one in their right mind put the Suns in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess a lot of that credit has to go to Jeff Hornacek because he's been a great coach.
I mean, all of these new coaches have been amazing. You know, with Brad Stevens, Hornacek, I don't know. I'm having a John moment. Hornacek. You know, I mean, they're all, you know.
The Bobcats coach whose name I can't think of.
That's what I kept trying to avoid. But yeah, the Bobcats coach too, Steve Clifford.
I mean, he has them playing excellent defense. I mean,
great defense. Still a shitty team, but you know, good job, Bobcats.
We didn't bring him up. Al Jefferson, All-Star snub.
I'm not a fan of this.
Woo!
I'm not gonna vouch for him. So you guys can talk about him if you want. I mean,
if you have Jefferson same thing. Who are you taking off from the Eastern team?
East, my two guys to take off would be Joe and DeRozan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But then you put in Kyle Lowry.
Then you put in Kyle Lowry, and then you have
Lance Stevenson. Lance Stevenson.
Lance Stevenson or Al Jefferson? That's a tough one. Because Lance Stevenson is like the third best on the best team in basketball, but Al Jefferson has him competing at not a high level.
I mean,
in the Eastern Conference is a high level for the Eastern side.
He isn't competing for a playoff spot in the East. Or are they? I don't know. I don't really.
They're the 8th seed right now.
Okay, yeah. So he's got him hanging in there. Yeah. But okay, so Al Jefferson might have more talent. This is kind of going back to the building around thing. Al Jefferson might have more talent than a guy like Lance Stevenson, although that's debatable. But you know, because Al Jefferson can score out of his mind, and he can rebound, and he can do all these things. But is that skill set more valuable than what Lance Stevenson can bring to the table, who might not ever score over 20 points a game, but he brings so much else? He's a great defender, great passer, and decent scorer.
It kind of reminds me with the Pistons when they had the 4 All-Stars. They're all perfect fits, and it's hard to evaluate all of them individually because they're a unit. They're a perfect fit. Every single person in that team is a perfect fit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't know how he'd be doing if he weren't drafted by the Pacers. That's such a perfect organization for him. He'd probably be out of the league, but.
He definitely would have been out of the league.
Yeah, he would have been. Yeah,
after the incident where he pushed his girlfriend down the steps or whatever it was.
Jesus Christ! I can't believe. Yeah. I saw him on a Slam magazine cover with Derrick Rose. I think it was the year before they went into college, and so I always kind of had my eye on him. And then I just figured
he was a beast in Lincoln High. They won.
Yeah, he was a monster.
They won the PSAL 4 years in a row, the championship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when he was always talented, but I would take Lance Stevenson's skill set over someone who may be more talented, but I think that their skills aren't necessarily more conducive to winning.
Okay.
Is
So
there anything else you
I'm
want
just
to
trying
add?
to think if there's any other snubs. I mean, I
Well,
think we've
one of
hit
the
them all. I
things,
think Cousins was hinted at before.
yeah.
I'm not. I mean, I actually like Cousins. I don't want to make it come across like I don't. But I don't think there's any validity to that.
Well, one player that we hadn't really talked about was Aaron Aflalo, who I think has been having a great year, despite the fact that his team is still in rebuilding mode. I think he's had a really, really good year. I don't know if I would have put him over somebody like Lowry or Stevenson, but I think that he's somebody that could have got recognition. I would have put him over Al Jefferson, as far as
I put him over Joe Johnson and nobody else.
I mean, if we're looking at the All-Star team and we're saying a guard has to replace a guard, I mean, I'd probably take Kyrie Irving off the team altogether, have John Wall starting,
okay.
and then it's an open guard spot, Joe Johnson and DeMar DeRozan. And I mean, I'd take Stevenson over Joe Johnson and DeRozan. I'd take a Lowry over Johnson and DeRozan.
Okay.
Maybe throw Aflalo over Johnson and DeRozan.
I think Aflalo really does get, pushed under the radar because he's on such a rebuilding team, but he is.
You can use the word terrible. You don't have to use rebuilding.
Well, you know what? They're gonna be.
They're
gonna be good. I
like them. They need to score. That's the thing. Cause I like Vucevic and I like Oladipo, but after that, it's
sketchy.
Yeah, it's good. And I think really a high draft pick is gonna really elevate them a little bit further as far as their core. I think their core is not bad, with Vucevic. I think Tobias Harris is somebody that you can really build around.
He's been injured this year, I believe.
Yeah, he's been.
He hasn't quite been himself. I think John Henson is a guy. Basically, every team in the league can use. Like if you put, because Vucevic.
Your second John moment of the day.
Yeah.
Vucevic.
I'm racking him up.
It's Vucevic.
Vucevic. Okay. I mean, he can't really protect the rim. And you put Henson on the Magic, that team gets better. You put Henson on the Kings, that team gets better. Henson's one of my guys. Big Henson fan.
You put Henson on the Bucks, and they're still the worst team in the NBA.
Right, but you put Embiid maybe on next to him. I don't know. I like that front court a lot.
We give the Cavs a hard time, but the Bucks roster is a mess. They have nothing going on.
They have the Greek Freak, and they have my man Henson.
But are any of them going to be like go-to guys? Like they're complementary. They need that main attraction now. They need a star.
Honestly, with the Greek Freak, I don't think we really know just what his ceiling is. He's such a raw player, but
He reminds me of Paul George.
I think he could be like a Batum kind of player.
I heard a guy. I think it was Diddy. Compared him to Kirilenko.
Oh man.
Yeah, I'm taking the heat off of you right now.
This is great.
Yeah. I really like that comparison, and I see that in his game a lot, and I don't think it'll ever be like a mainstay in an offense. I think he'd be a good complementary piece, like you said, but you stick Embiid on there, and then you stick. But sticking Embiid on that Bucks team is not gonna make them, playoff contenders. They're still gonna be one of the worst teams in the league.
He's really, for as good as he is, and for as as fast as he's progressed, Embiid is still pretty raw.
Very, yeah.
He still has a good while before we even begin to see what kind of player he can become.
He has to bulk up too. He's very skinny.
Yeah, I think
the way that guy runs though, and that guy can pass the ball. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, like that guy has some skill.
Talking about Embiid, we're actually going to wrap it up for the night now.